Hi, this is Adrenakrohm. Welcome to the first of an 8-part series in which I'll take you through each of the 8 modulation sources in Filterverse. Do note that the majority of these techniques can be used in Supermodo also. So let's get started. First up, metaknob. Let's go. So at its most basic, a metaknob is essentially a macro which you've probably used on one of your synthesizers that you might already have. So let's assign metaknob to cutoff. But before we do anything further, note that the metaknob is at 0 and the cutoff is at maximum. So if we turn this up, this isn't going to do anything at all. In fact, it's going to want to extend past the maximum, which isn't possible, obviously. So let's turn the cutoff down so it's aligned with the metaknob. And if we turn this up, you can see the cutoff increase accordingly. So let's play back the bass line and let's turn the metaknob up. And the cutoff increases in accordance. So you might be wondering now, why don't I just use the cutoff directly? And of course you can do that. But the benefit of using a metaknob is that now I can assign the same knob to multiple parameters. So now I'm going to assign it to resonance, and let's just put it to the type also. Now if we turn the metaknob up, you can hear it modulating multiple parameters at once. Let's just take these off, resonance and type for the moment. So now it's back only on cutoff. The other benefit of using a metaknob rather than modulating directly is that you can then define a set range. So for example, the cutoff, I might only want that to go halfway. So let's put in 60. I'll explain more on that in a second. So now when we turn the metaknob fully up, the maximum it will ever achieve is the 0 point here because we've decided halfway. So when we're defining ranges, note that the inputs here, so the 60, the value here, corresponds to whatever you're modulating. So if I turn this to maximum, you'll see that this is 120, and that's the full range of the cutoff parameter. So we have positive 60, negative 60, so the total is obviously 120. Or if I put it on resonance, you can see that the maximum is 12, which is the total amount here, the 12 shown on resonance. So if I wanted to modulate resonance up to level 8, for example, then I simply type in 8 here, and the maximum value of the metaknob will max out at the 8. Very simple. Let's turn this down now. Let's just make it something like 4, so it's a little less aggressive. Below the metaknob dial itself, we can call this something. We can name it something more useful. So let's call this cutoff. Below that again, we can then cross-modulate. So we can send a source to the metaknob. So if we were to add a sequencer, for example, I'm not going to go into too much depth on the sequencer because that will come in that video. And now let's assign this sequencer to cutoff like so. Let's turn it all the way up. And you can already see that the metaknob is dancing in accordance with the sequencer here. So when I play this back, you'll see the cutoff increase as well as the resonance because they're both on the same metaknob. There are 3 options for polarity: unipolar positive, unipolar negative, and bipolar. So let's just go back to unipolar positive and turn the sequencer off for now. I'll explain more on that when I get to the bipolar part. But unipolar positive means that it's the full range in one direction, which is the example here we had right at the start. So if we turn this down, turn the value down on the cutoff, and turn this up, it goes all the way to maximum, or all the way to that we've defined it in the level here. Turn it down, 0, and then all the way again. But then if we move to unipolar negative, the opposite is true. So if we turn this up, the macro will want to push the cutoff further down, but it can't go further down because it's already at the minimum. Similarly, it will want to turn the resonance further down, but again it can't because it's already at the minimum. So to do that, we have to turn the cutoff all the way up and the resonance all the way up. And then you can see it now take effect. So obviously we're into self-resonance now, so let's turn this back down to, let's say, 10, which is the value before self-resonance. Like so. Turn this up. Perfect. Now the third option is bipolar, and this will fix the issue that we had at the start with the sequencer. So what bipolar does, it starts in the middle and it modulates each way, positive and negative. So let's put this in the middle because we're going to modulate each way. Let's turn resonance down. We don't want any self-resonance. Turn the modulation down also to 0. Let's turn the cutoff to the middle as well. We can double click, go like so. So now if we turn the cutoff clockwise, it will increase the cutoff. If we turn the cutoff anti-clockwise, it will decrease the cutoff. So let's play this back and I'll show you. Like so, decrease, and then increase. Decrease, increase. So now that that's working, let's put back the sequencer, and now you can see what it's doing there. You can hear it's still going relatively quiet in the second half, and that's just because the low bass is not really audible. Let's just put this on bandpass, for example. You can either slide the value up, or you can type in 3 directly, because it's the third slot along here, the third option. Let's turn that depth down. So now you can hear it much more pronounced. Perfect. But let's now take this one step further. Let's say that we don't want this sequencer playing constantly, like it is now. We just want that to be an effect at some point that we're going to turn on whenever we feel like it. Let's add a metaknob, a second metaknob. Now let's assign the metaknob to sequencer. So to do that, click these little lines here, and then turn up the depth of metaknob 3. And now the movement has suddenly stopped. So now if we play this back, you'll just hear a bandpass saw centered around the 659 Hz frequency. But if we turn the metaknob up, the LFO starts to take effect, the sequencer that we input earlier. We might only want that a touch. So there we go, around 20%, just a little bit. Turn it off, or fully up, whatever level you want. Right, so stepping back to the metaknob, the next function is quantize. And for this example, I'm going to use a noise source, and I'm also going to switch to a robocomb. Let's put the symmetry on 50. Let's turn the damping up a little bit. Turn the resonance up also. Type all the way up to 6 as well. Let's turn our metaknob up so we have modulation of the sequencer, which in turn modulates the metaknob. Turn the depth all the way up. Let's add quantizing. Let's put this to, let's say, minor. Turn down the depth because it's obviously way too extreme. And now you can hear it stepping through the minor scale. Major. And go chords. So next we have glide, and the best way to illustrate this is you can hear the stepping that we obviously intentionally created for the quantization. But if we turn glide up, it won't be a sudden jump from one note to the next. I think that sounds quite good. So it's still within scale, it's still playing that chord, but it's not as sudden, the jump. Which I think sounds much more musical. Right, so now I've covered off all the features, let's just have another fun example. For this one I'm going to switch to tempo lay, turn off the sequencer and the meta, so we just have the cutoff now. Let's unassign meta for now. Let's turn off the quantize, glide all the way down as well. Damping, cross feedback, and division down also. So essentially it's an initialized tempo lay. And for this example, we're going to use unipolar positive, turn the value all the way to the max, assign it to cutoff. First of all, unlink the stereo, like so, and then turn it just a touch on time. And now we have access to the cross feedback. Or instead of that, let's take it off there and let's put it on division. Again, unlink like so, turn it up. And then we can kill it by this little button here. So there we have it, the meta knob in Filterverse. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll be back next with the ADSO. See you then.